I love to tell moms how important they are because moms are raising the next generation. And that's why we created this podcast made for moms like you. It's the ChannelMom podcast, now on YouTube. So tune in and be blessed.
The show made for moms and families. It's ChannelMom.
Moms should get more credit. Back when I became a mom, I realized people thought my former career in TV news was more important than my motherhood. But that's backward because moms are raising that next generation and the world depends on us to do it well. So moms, this is your time to sit back, relax, and let ChannelMom cheer you on and equip you in your job as a mom because you're doing some of the most important work on the planet.
ChannelMom, we encourage moms. Now, here's your host, Jenny Dean Schmidt.
Oh my goodness. That is me. I hope you're here for a reason today. I hope that this show is meant for you. I am Jenny, and this is ChannelMom, where we encourage moms. We focus on your amazing value when the rest of the world forgets to tell you how valuable you are as a mother in this world. And speaking of the world, does the world feel like it's reeling out of control right now? Do you find yourself feeling kind of anxious about it all for both yourself and your kids? Or maybe you've got some personal circumstances that have led you to feel truly out of control. Things like illness or loss or infertility or financial problems, whatever it may be. Well, we've got an amazing guest to help us with this out of control feeling today. Green McAfee, who comes from a pretty famous background that begins with the word hobby and ends with the word lobby. She has incredible advice for moms today, having faced anxiety over her own struggles with infertility as well as loss, and advice for moms who have adopted. Tips from Lauren's new book, Beyond Our Control, coming up next on ChannelMom. You just heard in the advertisement, actually not everybody hears our ads, but most people do. You have alternatives.org. Man, do they have a compassionate approach to the whole life issue. And something really cool, they have just informed ChannelMom that they're going to continue on for a year, another year as one of our sponsors. So that deserves some applause. So grateful for Alternatives Pregnancy Centers and what they do. You have alternatives.org. Go check them out. They could use your prayer and your donations, whatever you can do for them. They would love that. Also, just a little personal announcement for ChannelMom. You know, we do outreach in prisons. We teach a 9-week curriculum, biblically based, that re-engages mamas in prison with their children, teaches them healthy parenting principles, tries to prepare them to parent again and prevent that legacy of incarceration from being passed on. It's an incredible program. We give them a success kit when they get released from prison to help set them up to get a job and to parent their children well, to provide a stable home, all of that. ChannelMom does some really good work with moms in prison. So if you would like to be a volunteer with us, we need volunteers in Colorado, both down in the Pueblo area for the facility down there, La Vista, and then up here in the Denver area for Denver Women's Correctional Facility. And if you're listening to us in another state, we are trying to bring Forever Moms, our prison outreach program, to mothers in prison in other states. So if you would like to do that, please reach out to us at info@channelmom.org, info@channelmom.org, if you'd like to volunteer or help us bring our program to other states. So that's my little public service announcement. Okay, so this is a treat and a dose of reality. And I think a lot of moms are going to identify with this guest today. Doesn't the title of her book just make you feel understood and encouraged? The book is called Beyond Our Control. Let go of unmet expectations, overcome anxiety, and discover intimacy with God. Oh my goodness. That just makes me feel better, the title of that book. She is Green McAfee. She is married to Michael, her co-author on their book, Beyond Our Control. And she's the mother of what she calls fierce and feminine little girls, Zion and Zara. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. She's also the founder of Stand for Life and serves as the ministry director at Hobby Lobby. Lauren is the author of Only One Life, Not What You Think, Legacy Study, and Created in the Image of God. She's currently pursuing a PhD in ethics and policy. Lauren previously worked for her father, Steve Green, of the Green family, while he founded Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. And we're just so blessed and honored to have her on the show today. Welcome, Lauren.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's so fun to be here.
Yeah, totally cool. I want to read from the foreword in your book, so we're going to see if I can quickly get to that. as I'm getting to the forward, I want to say this. You you come from a pretty famous, well off family, and yet in the book it's kind of clear that as blessed as you are, you've also had to face more burdens than what some people would expect. And also, Lauren, I hope you don't mind me saying, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but as I was reading through your book last night, I was like, she didn't kind of step out of her house and live a super privileged life. She lived next to a mortuary and she shared her driveway with a hearse, and she had a chicken coop in her backyard. I mean, am I wrong to think that you grew up with a lot of money around you and a lot of privilege, but you kind of started off just like most of us? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah. No, that's so sweet. Yeah. So, I mean, even with my grandparents being the founders of Hobby Lobby and my family still owning the business, it was really important to my family all through my growing up and still today to not feel entitled to anything and for us to have a really normal life growing up. And so, I'm grateful that, you know, if I get anything financially from my family, it's because I worked hard and earned a paycheck, and it's not any extra thing. So my grandpa David Green actually wrote about that, kind of what the family legacy and generosity and stewardship of having a large family business has been like, and how even just structurally they've done that in order to kind of try and teach us, the next generations, the importance of hard work and earning what you get. So yeah, that's definitely something that's been kind of a legacy piece of my grandparents' investment in us, as wanting to give us a very normal
Yeah,
life.
well, let me say this, and Kelly, you can get the applause button ready again. Praise God. You have a family that built $1 billion business, right? It's got to be with that many Hobby Lobbies. And you have a grandpa and a father who said, we're not going to treat our kids like the Kardashians. We're going to give them biblical principles, remind them of what really matters on this planet, and we're going to have them work for their money. That deserves a round of applause. Oh my goodness. That's really special, Lauren. And I'm not sure if you ever resented it. Like, okay, hey, can't you just throw me a few dollars here? But when you had a chicken coop in your backyard as a newly married girl. But I applaud that. I imagine a lot of people who are listening today are going to be just impressed to hear that's the way that you had to learn, just like the rest of us. All right.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to read from the foreword of your book, and this is you writing, not the foreword. Is it the introduction?
Yeah,
So here's
the introduction.
Here's what you say. And it's kind of long, but I think people are going to really appreciate that you understand them. I'm guessing that what has brought you here to these pages is a kind of pain that feels paralyzing, the type of suffering that will never make sense, the aspects of life that linger just beyond your reach, beyond those things you think you control. I'm guessing that you're grateful for many things in life, the air you breathe, the opportunities you've been given, the moments you deeply enjoy. But you know as well as I do that even the richest, most plentiful blessings don't outweigh the burden of feeling out of control. I'm guessing that while you may have always known that life comes with its share of hardships, it's the form those hardships take that has felt totally shocking to you. You thought you'd struggle some, but did you really have to struggle like this? And I think so many moms are going to say, yeah, this is so how I feel. And I think that's totally why you wrote the book, because you came to that place as someone who grew up in a Christian family, who follows God, who has, come from a lot of money, who seems to have lived a privileged life. You've got a wonderful husband, you've got now 2 adopted beautiful girls. And so some people might look at you on the surface and say, you've got no hardship, you've got no pain. But then you did face that kind of pain that might have made you question, like, really, Lord? Like, really, you're going to make us go through this? So tell us about what you went through.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you reading that piece too, just to kind of give context, because I think so many people that read the book, we talk a lot about our adoption story, and I'll share a little bit more about that. But the book is so much more than just our story, but it's hopefully relatable to anyone who has experienced kind of having these expectations of what life would look like, and then life does not turn out the way you expected, and just the anxiety that can come from that, and wanting to control things and things just being out of your reach is such a theme that I think, especially in the past few years, I realize so many people can relate to. And so in my own life, that happened in my journey to parenthood. So as you mentioned, like I had a very blessed life in that I have wonderful parents that raised me in a very stable and loving home, and have been blessed in so many ways. And my husband and I got married young, and whenever we were wanting to start our family, we decided to pursue adoption. So my grandparents are adoptive parents, and then my parents are adoptive parents. They adopted one of my sisters from China. And so adoption has been a part of my family for generations, and I wanted to pursue that in our life. And Michael, my husband, was excited about that too. So we started the adoption process, pursuing an international adoption through a country in Africa. And we were 3 years into the adoption process, and that country closed its program. So we were 3 years into, hoping and praying for a child, and then it closed. And so then we switched to a different program. That program closed as well. And so then we were having to wait until we were old enough to pursue an adoption through China, because there are age requirements for different countries. And all of that effort and the prayers and our longing for children for 7 years in the adoption process, it was so hard to know that we had this good desire, yet God wasn't fulfilling it. Yeah. And so at the same time, we also began trying to have children biologically, and we realized that infertility was going to be our experience. And so we, are years and years into our infertility experience now as well. And so there were so many years we were pursuing every avenue we could, whether pursuing children biologically or through adoption, and nothing was working out. And we, for such a deep longing to go unfulfilled year after year, it was just very discouraging. And so then we finally, in our adoption process, did get matched with a little girl, Zion, our daughter, from China. And so we traveled and brought her home the fall of 2019, and we were so thrilled to finally be parents. I mean, we were, for 7 years longing and praying for this child, and now we finally had our daughter. She was a year and a half old when we adopted her, and we got home and we were settling into life with the three of us and being parents for the first time. And because it was an international adoption, we were doing just a variety of routine medical checkups and just kind of checking and make sure everything was great and that she was getting the best care, just to be a healthy little girl. And incidentally, we found out through those checkups that she had cancer. And so it was not something that was expected at all. And so it was a surprise. And, in an instant, from only having been a parent for a month and a half, realized that our daughter had a life-threatening disease of cancer. Yeah. And having to then walk through that felt really disorienting, to think, okay, I thought that I did my, quote unquote, suffering by waiting for 7 years for my child. And now to have my daughter for a month and a half and then a cancer diagnosis felt really unfair.
Sure.
That, that's how it felt. It was like, God, is this really what you intended for us to go through? Like, I don't understand this. So it was such a journey of realizing that I thought I'd be able to control these circumstances in my life. I thought I'd be able to control, growing our family, either through adoption or infertility. And when both of those didn't work out in a way I expected, that was devastating.
Sure.
And it caused me to question, okay, what is this? Why is this happening, Lord? I don't understand.
Absolutely. And I'm just interjecting briefly. And so I'm guessing, is Zara a boy? Is Zion's a girl and Zara's a boy?
Girl. Both girls.
Oh, that's what I thought, because I thought you said, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've gotten this wrong. But no, 2 girls. Okay. So we'll get to Zara's story after we also tell Ezra's story quickly. But let me just interject to say, I think just about everybody gets that. Where I feel like I've seen God provide something, and I think, oh, this is it. He's coming through after I've struggled, and this is, finally God comes through, and here, it's all rainbows and unicorns, and it's all going to work out. And then it's like, oh no, it's not this beautiful gift I thought it was, that with no problems. And then you think, really, Lord, it's more pain. And by the way, I think you're about to tell us that there's still joy and that he does come through, but not always in the way that we think. And so I just want to say, I think so many moms identify with that process. All right. So you got Zion, she's diagnosed with cancer. You're a brand new mama. And you think, oh no, I thought it was all going to work out. And now there's a cancer diagnosis. And so then briefly tell us the rest of the story with your children, and your sister or sister-in-law. And then I want to get into some of your tips about how we handle this stuff.
For sure. Okay. So to try and quickly cover a bunch of ground.
Yeah.
So our daughter Zion, we went through a surgery to remove her tumor and then chemotherapy, and she went into remission, thankfully.
Yes.
A couple months later, and she's still in remission, doing great. And so then we began the adoption process again, and we were quickly matched. We did a domestic adoption. We were quickly matched with a little boy named Ezra. The birth mom chose us to parent, and so we brought him home from the hospital. We had him for a year, and things looked like they were going to be moving forward with the adoption, the legal process to finalize things for a lot of that time. But because it was during COVID, it was in 2020 that he was born, things in the court system were slow. And so there was just extra time that we were in this limbo phase of not knowing for sure, because of the legal process, that he would stay in our home. So after Ezra was in our home for a year, birth mom, we had a great open relationship with birth mom, and she continued that entire year to want to stick with the adoption plan and for her son to stay with us. We ended up having someone else contest the adoption, and at the court hearing, they told us that we actually had to give Ezra up, and we had 2 hours to say goodbye. So what went from us thinking for the most of that year, as we had our son in our home and our daughter thought of him as her brother, we all of a sudden had a matter of hours to say goodbye forever to our son Ezra that we had cared for, raised. He called us mom and dad, and we'd been there every day of his life since he was born. And so that was a really devastating loss to have to say goodbye to a son, and we haven't seen or heard from him since that day.
I have to interject again. And then you adopted another child, and then I want you to briefly tell me about what your sister-in-law went through, but I want to make sure, because I know people want to hear about how you landed on this place that it will help folks when they feel like life is beyond their control and God isn't coming through, at least in the moment, the way they expect him to. Your husband writes very wisely. I want to quickly read something that he wrote in the book called Beyond Our Control by Lauren and Michael, right? Lauren and Michael McAfee. Is that correct?
Yes, you got it.
Okay. And he says, in the Western world today, the church has largely embraced the half-truth that God's primary function is to intervene in our lives such that our suffering is eased, our stress is calmed, and our success is pretty much ensured. This comes in varying degrees of absurdity, from the blazing televangelists promising financial provision for any person who supports their ministry, all the way down to the more subtle foolishness that if we live a good Christian life, God will reward us in this life with a mostly pain-free, prosperous existence. And I think we all operate a little bit under that thought, like, God, surely you're going to give me all good things all the time. And you probably did too. So now is it your sister or sister-in-law went through something?
Yeah, so we lost Ezra, and then a year later, one of my sisters who had been experiencing infertility and miscarriage finally got pregnant and had her pregnancy make it to 32 weeks when she suddenly went into some pregnancy complications, early labor, and then my nephew was born in emergency C-section and then passed away just minutes later. So that was another devastating loss that, again, my family had to walk through. And like you said, we have these we can have these expectations that God is just supposed to give us good things, and if he's a sovereign God who's in control of all things, and if he's a good God, then that means he'll give us good things in life if we're good and follow him and trust him. Yeah. And when you look through Scripture, yes, God is sovereign, and yes, God is a good and loving Father. But we also see that God, throughout Scripture, always uses these hardships and these pain points of living in a broken world in order to bring him glory, but also to shape us for good. And so we can see that in our own lives, as we've had to walk through these pain points of loss and unmet expectations, God was using them to shape us to be more like him. And as we lost our son, I could relate all the more to a God that loved me so much that he lost his son for my sake, that Jesus went to the cross for my sake and endured that suffering. And so as we go through pain and suffering in this life, that makes us all the more like Christ as we continue to look to God as our good and loving Father and trust him with those circumstances, even when they're hard and painful.
Yeah.
So I think the encouragement there is it's okay to have the moments of wrestling. Okay, is God actually in control and is he good? Because I certainly walked through that. But as we wrestle through that, keep looking to Scripture, because we'll see over and over again, yes, he is good, and yes, he is in control, and therefore we can trust him even with the hardest pain points of our lives.
Yeah, in the last 4 or 5 minutes we have, I want to make sure that people hear some of the most profound bits of advice that you come to in this book based on your own pain points, as you say, and your own struggles and trials where God was shaping you. Because I've watched it happen again and again in my life. And I have to say that in the end, God has never disappointed me. Like I thought he was about to disappoint me because it was too much. And then he works it together for good. He really, really does. And I don't know what it's like to have some of the pains that I have not had to go through. So I can't speak to those, but I do know how he's worked things together for good in my own life. And I can't say that he's ever fully, in the end, disappointed me. So you talk about looking to the center and looking up and getting past this illusion of control and walking out the spiritual discipline of lament to find peace, to find joy. I mean, you say you can get these things through all you've been through. All right, so with 4 minutes left, Lauren, and really it's more like 3, can you just give us like a 2-minute synopsis of how people manage this like you have learned to?
Yeah, I think that it's so important for people to remember that we are human beings created with emotions. And so as we walk hard things, it is okay to feel those negative emotions that maybe we don't want to feel and we want to suppress, but God created us as emotional beings. And so for us to be able to find a safe place to process those through talking with others, talking to God, crying about it, that helps us metabolize the grief through that process of lament. Lament just means to express your grief, whether it's through talking or crying or just journaling, and taking time to process that. I think that has been a significant part of the journey toward healing, which has led toward hope and the ability to, again, refocus my heart toward joy. And especially in the holiday season, I know this is really tough for a lot of people. People go to holiday things and think about the people that aren't there, maybe if a loved one has passed away or if there are broken relationships or just different struggles in this season, to remember that we can simultaneously hold a lot of emotions at once. So I can be sad and missing my son while also watching the joy of my daughter see Christmas lights and hold both of those at the same time. And that's okay. I think normalizing the kind of interesting way that we can hold so many complex emotions at once has been helpful for me to know, like, it's okay, create space for myself to feel the sadness and then create space also for that joy.
So Lauren McAfee, what a blessing. Your book is called Beyond Our Control, written by you and your husband. How do people just find the book? Is it everywhere?
It's everywhere. Yeah. Amazon and nearly anywhere books are sold. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren, for being on the show. It's a blessing to meet you.
You too. Thanks so much for having me.
And sure, and stay on the line. Don't hang up. We're only going to be on for another minute because I want to tell you something really quick before. So just stay on the line. Okay. Thank you. All right. This is the time in the show I say thank you for all you do as a mom. You may feel overlooked at this time of year, overworked at this time of year. You are raising the next generation. It's a profound task. You're changing the world by the way in which you raise your babies well. So thank you for your dedication and your sacrifice. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you. And I do want to remind you, our Colorado Gives campaign is this Tuesday. So come check us out on Facebook or wherever you can at ChannelMom. We're looking for 50 donors at $10 a month. Just about anybody can do that. $10 a month. And it's going to be matched. So that's going to be doubled to $20 a month. So just check us out at ChannelMom all over social media. We're going to be raising money for our Colorado Gives campaign. I hope Lauren was a blessing to you, just telling you the lessons of getting through your pain, getting over anxiety, trusting what God is up to, finding joy in the midst of it. And I just love Lauren's message. And also a big thanks to Kelly at the controls. Hey, check us out at channelmom.org to find help from our ministries, prayer, etc., whatever we can do for you. Thanks to my own mom and dad who are listening today. And yeah, my husband and kids. God bless you guys. Thanks, Cal. Have a blessed week. Thanks for listening.